Threw my estranged dad a birthday party to reconnect, but he called me a bad daughter in his speech, so I exposed him in front of everyone. He got drunk, then called me from jail and demanded I bail him out. My dad walked out when I was 9 and I hadn't seen him in person for almost 20 years. Last summer he called me out of nowhere saying he was turning 60 and wanted his daughter back in his life. He cried on the phone. He said he'd wasted too many years being stubborn. I cried too. I'm 28 now and I'd spent 2 decades wondering what I did wrong as a kid. I thought maybe people really do change. I told my fiance I wanted to throw my dad a 60th birthday party. Something nice. A rented hall, catered food, his side of the family flown in from out of state. My fiance asked me 3 separate times if I was sure. I said yes every time. I spent $11,000 of our wedding savings on that party. I called every relative I could find in my dad's old contacts. I tracked down his brother who hadn't seen him in 8 years. I made a slideshow with the few baby photos I had of us together. The night of the party, he showed up 40 minutes late wearing a suit I'd shipped him because he said he didn't own one. He hugged me at the door and whispered that I'd grown into a beautiful woman. I almost cried right there. For the first hour, everything was perfect. He shook hands with cousins he hadn't seen since the 90s. He laughed at my slideshow. He held up his glass when I gave a short speech about second chances. Then it was his turn to give a speech. He stood up at the head table with a microphone in one hand and a whiskey in the other. He thanked everyone for coming. He thanked his brother. Then he looked at me. Now I want to talk about my daughter Sienna, he said, because tonight is also about honesty. My stomach dropped. For 20 years, this girl ignored my calls, refused my letters, acted like I was dead. The room went still. I tried. God knows I tried. But she chose her mother's side. She turned my own family against me. She is, and I'm sorry to say this on my birthday, a bad daughter. Someone gasped. My fiance reached for my hand under the table. I let it sit there. I sat for maybe 3 seconds processing it. Then I stood up. Can I borrow that microphone, Dad? He laughed and handed it over, thinking I was going to thank him for his honesty. I walked to the front of the room. I pulled out my phone. Most of you flew in tonight because I told you my father wanted to reconnect. Some of you spent money you didn't have. So before this goes any further, I want to play something. I tapped my phone. His voice came through the speakers. The voicemail he'd left me 3 years ago when he was drunk and angry that mom had remarried. You're a worthless little brat and I hope your mother chokes on her new husband's money. Don't ever call me again unless it's to apologize. His face went white. I tapped again. The next voicemail. The one from last year telling me my grandmother had died and he wasn't going to invite me to the funeral because I didn't deserve to grieve her. 3 more voicemails after that. Each one worse than the last. Each one in his voice. The room was silent except for his recordings. His brother was staring at him with his mouth open. When the last voicemail ended, I took the microphone again. I threw this party because he called me crying about second chances. I spent $11,000 believing him. I wanted a father. I set the microphone on the table next to him. Happy birthday, Dad. I walked out with my fiance. I left the venue, the cake, the catered food, all of it. I heard later from my uncle that my dad finished the open bar by himself, started screaming at the staff, and tried to drive home. The bartender called the cops. He blew nearly 3 times the legal limit and resisted arrest hard enough to add a charge. At 2 in the morning, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. It was him, from a holding cell. Sienna, I need you to come down here. Bail is $1,500. You owe me this after what you did tonight. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. I don't owe you anything. You said it yourself in front of 40 people. I'm a bad daughter. Don't you dare hang up on me. I am your father. You haven't been my father since I was 9. I hung up and blocked the number. He called from 3 more numbers that night. I blocked each one. My uncle paid his bail 2 days later and hasn't spoken to him since. I used what was left of the party budget to put a deposit on our wedding venue. My fiance asked if I wanted to invite anyone from my dad's side. I told him no. I have my mom. I have him. That's enough family for me.